Well, thanks for jumping in, bro. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Excited just to hang.
Dude, it's a long time coming. I
Been a
mean,
while,
you and
yeah.
I met back in the broker days,
Yeah.
right? Back with JB.
Yeah, a long time
You were
ago.
appraising.
Yeah.
But let's, before you got into appraising, like how did you even get into appraising property? How did you get into that whole industry?
So it actually started, so my dad has actually been an appraiser. He started a couple years before me up in Show Low, and he really enjoyed it. His background, before he appraised, he actually owned a manufactured home dealership.
Really?
And the guys that he would get appraisals from, he would call them and they'd be like, oh, we're backed up for like 6 weeks. And he was like struggling in the dealership, and he called him for an appraisal, like it's going to be like 2 months. He's like, hang on, I'm going to come talk to you guys.
Yeah.
And so then he got
Found
rid
the
of his
opportunity.
dealership and got in with them, started appraising, and then I was in my early 20s, just kind of trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, I think you might really like this appraisal thing. And one of his clients got me in contact with an appraiser here in Mesa, Bill Hall, Hall and Associates. Shout out to Bill, great guy. And apprenticed with him, got my license, worked for him for 7 or 8 years, and then went on my own. So,
Wow. Now, were the rules different when, dad just rolls down to that shop and it's like, hey, I'm going to become an appraiser? Was it the same? Like he had to get apprenticeship and all that too?
Yeah, same thing. It was an apprenticeship and everything. And with appraising, apprentices, most places will pay you to apprentice. You're working for them. You're doing work. You don't make a lot of money, but you're able to survive while you're apprenticing. They paid him enough where he can make it work and get his license.
And it's a while,
and
4 years?
No, it was about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still a long time.
Yeah, it's a while. But it was good for, he was in a different situation. But for me, I was, 21, newly married, just me and Bethany, and she had a job and we had our little apartment. It was fine. So, and Bill was good to me, and it was great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and you saw obviously a big run up in the industry, crash and run back up again, but you made it.
Yeah, when I first started, I'm like, man, this is amazing. Like, I'm going to be rich, And, of course, that's big money when you're 21. And then 05, 06, 07 came, and it was a different story, Had a few jobs then, along with what appraising I could do, but appraising's been great to me. It's been good over the years.
Now, how did it all change when like HVCC and AIR all came out for you? How did that change things?
Well, for instance, we used to hang out a lot more back in the day because
we could.
You would send me appraisals directly, so I would take you to lunch a lot, and and that type of thing. And
I still remember that Greek pita place.
I was going to bring that up on the drive over. I was going to say, I guarantee that Greg remembers our Greek lunches.
Dude,
where you would probably get a salad, and
no, I would have still eaten the pita right now.
I know it, man. Yeah, we should have gone there today, but and so things changed. Kind of where we had to get on with appraisal management companies, or for instance, when you went to Nova, you're able to get me in with Nova. I still do a lot of appraising for Nova. Through they have an appraisal management company, or Nova also sends work to other appraisal management companies, which I do work for them as well. And I just finished up an appraisal for Nova today.
Start getting in with all these other companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it really was, when it first came out, a lot of appraisers were in an uproar, like, oh, this is going to kill the business and all our relationships. And
all change.
Like all change, which is, something I'll talk about when the real estate industry changed recently. But it ended up being great, to be honest. I think it's been really good at the independence of appraisals. I remember back in the day, when the recession was happening and things were starting to hurt. I remember, clients threatening us, basically saying, not like with physical violence, but basically, you'll never get another order from us again unless this appraisal comes in at this value, or I can't make payroll this month, type of thing.
Wow.
And so, all that stuff's gone.
Yeah. And even though you had to stand your ground, it still doesn't feel good.
Exactly. We'd have to be like, no, sorry. But a lot of appraisers wouldn't stand their ground. They would say, you've been good to me for years, so I'll hook you up with this. And that's where those guys aren't around anymore. And it's sad. You see it both ways. But I think what happened with all that was a lot more fair for the industry. Because we really are, appraisers are supposed to be an independent third party. And so it's really helped with that, I think.
Did you take a pay cut from that, though, because there had to be now this third entity that's taking their piece of the pie, or did the raising of appraisal costs cover that for you?
Yeah, it's pretty much covered. So the interesting thing with appraising, what we get paid for appraisals has gone up very little over the years. and we've seen some pressure on appraisal fees lately, with the downturn in volume. But it's when you look at inflation, what we're getting paid for appraisals hasn't gone up with inflation, but it didn't really take it. I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, it's kind of been passed on to the borrower for the most part.
Yeah. Okay.
They pay a little extra to have it run through an appraisal management company or through an appraisal department. And for the most part, I think we get paid a little bit more. But it wasn't really a pay cut. And it ended up being, at least in my end, it ended up being a good thing.
Yeah, cool. Now, when did you make the decision? Because all of a sudden I look up and I'm seeing like, hey, I'm getting into real estate. I'm like, wow. So when did you make that decision?
Yeah, so that's been an interesting thing. So quite a few appraisers also have the real estate license. I'm sure you know many. And I've known quite a few that have for years. And, and they kind of do it on the side, which is like, hey, I'll help you, do a couple deals here and there. It helps pay for the boat or pays for vacations or, if they want to buy their own investment property, it's nice. And so a couple guys I know doing that, I kind of got the idea. But I was, when appraising was, it's been really good the past 10, 12, 15 years. After the recovery from the recession, it was very steady, just, good, steady income. And so I was like, I don't really have the time to do that. Appraising is going well. I don't want to take time away from my appraisal business. And then, of course, as rates has gone up the past couple of years, I have had plenty of time to pursue other options.
Volume has come down.
Volume is
down.
The
orders are down.
Yeah, orders are down quite a bit. And so, about, I guess it's been about a year and a half ago, I was getting the idea I should get my license, and if I can get a couple deals a year, that would really help out a lot. And because we get asked as appraisers, like, hey, do you know a good real estate agent? And then I can be like, hey, I know the best one.
By the way.
And so I talked to my buddy Tyler, who you've worked with for years, and it was right the perfect time when he had someone on his team was moving mostly to Vegas. She still splits time. But he's like, oh, man, I need the help. He's like, that'd be so much fun if we had worked together. And he's always hired me to appraise stuff for him, listings or consult. He invests a lot. I've consulted a lot with him on investing deals. And so I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I got my license. And at first I thought, oh, this will be kind of a good thing to do on the side. And as I've gotten more into it, I just really enjoy it.
That's awesome.
I really like it. And it's kind of, I still appraise, of course. I just finished an appraisal for Nova today, actually. But
thank you.
Yeah. And so, but it's kind of become shifting my focus to this now. I'm just really enjoying it. And of course, I think the potential's there to make a little more money. It can be hard to grow an appraisal business. And, you're limited by time.
I was going to say, you're capped, right?
I can't have other people appraise for me. You can start appraisal companies and have people appraise under you, but the big shops have all kind of gone away because if you're a good appraiser, you got to get...
You can just get on the AMC.
You got to get approved anyways,
right.
So why not do your own thing out of your house? And so really you're just kind of capped by the time of day, when things get super busy, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot more potential for income in real estate. And to be honest, I think there can also be a kind of a tide shifting when appraising. As we get more into automated valuation. I just got a call an hour before I got here for one of my buyers. The lender was all excited because the appraisal got waived. It's like,
Yeah.
And so some appraisers losing out on a fee, and I'm making a compensation for helping out a buyer. It's like there's just...
We are seeing more of that, right? We're seeing
a lot more
of that.
Waivers, and because
the waivers.
The automated valuation is there.
Yep.
And
it's only going to keep getting better.
Yeah. I mean, personally, it's probably as being an appraiser for 22 years, it's a little bit of a soapbox thing for me I think there's definitely a need for appraising.
Yeah.
But I know there's also times, if you have a tract home, like this deal I'm working on when it got waived, they're putting down a large down payment. It's a tract home. It's very obvious they're getting a very good deal. It's like,
right.
Yeah, and totally understand it getting waived, And so I see it both ways. But really what it comes down to is after 22 years, I'm just enjoying this industry and having a lot of fun working with my friends. And I'm a lot more of a... like you and I, we've been friends for years through appraising work is how we got to be friends. And, I'm a lot more of a relationship guy. And in appraising, that's kind of gone away, which it kind of needs to, because it needs to be an independent thing.
Right.
So I like a lot more of the situation in this industry where I can be more about the relationships and helping out my clients and advocating for them, and it's just been a fun change.
Yeah,
so
I was thinking about it. Like you think about appraising, and you're just going to the property. Like maybe there's someone there to talk to or not, but you're just there to do a job, right?
And I probably talk more than I should. I mean, you know me. I'm a talker. Like, you know, when you get a cool people, like I do a lot of work with reverse mortgages. And I'm not going to call them old stories. I'm always late to my next appointment because I'm there hearing about their war story and their medical problems, and then we start talking about grandkids, and I got my phone out, and you know, I don't know if you should be doing that in appraisal or not, but that's always been me, and so I think my personality kind of leads a lot more into real estate. I mean, I love the analytical side of appraising. Analyzing the data and all that, which I think is good. It mends really well, obviously.
Well, I was going to say, do you feel like you have a competitive advantage when it comes to pricing a home and comping a home and offering on a home as a buyer or listing agent?
I think it does. You know, and that's one reason Tyler was real excited to bring me on as an agent. You know, for instance, the first showing we went to, me and him, when I just got my license, and we were working with a new young couple buying an FHA home. And the first house we went to had an unpermitted addition, and they were going FHA. And in that situation, I was able to look at it real quick and point out the reasons why they couldn't count it as livable area for an FHA loan.
Nice.
And Tyler was like, "This is great." He's like, "This is perfect."
Great timing.
You know, and so how many agents can do that?
Right.
Some can, but many don't know the appraisal guidelines. And that's my job. I understand why. And so,
it does.
There's many ways, to be able to look at it from both ways, I think really helps a lot. And a lot of my clients have said that, you know, that they really like that I've been able to bring the appraiser mind to the real estate deal.
Well, I would think for sure. I mean, when you're going in, and again, I'm coming from the money loan side, but if you're going in to negotiate an offer and you're on the buy side, you're sitting here looking at how they price the home and thinking how the appraisal is going to come in, and then you're looking at the comps as just a different way.
Right.
And then you can make a better argument, so to speak, to the listing agent saying, hey, this is what we're going to propose, and here's why.
Yeah.
You have a knowledge base to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You know, and I obviously, and you have to be really careful when you're dual licensed wearing both hats. You know, I always have to be very careful to say this is not an appraisal. But you can look in public records. I've been an appraiser for 22 years. You know.
That does hold a lot of clout.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I tell.
Have you found that it's helped you on? Are you doing mostly buyers or mostly listings or both?
It's been both. Yeah,
okay.
It's very. It's been kind of 50-50 to be honest.
So when you go on the listing appointments, like have you pull that out, right? Like, hey, I've been in the business for over 22 years. Here's where I'm thinking it's going to be. Where were you thinking? Like, how does that conversation go?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, it's actually helped me get a couple of listings. I just closed one a couple months ago where I had originally met him by appraising their house for a divorce. And I do quite a bit of that, which is unfortunate, but you know, it's something that needs to happen. And then he called me a couple months later, and you know, I always at in that situation, you know, they're personal clients, and so I say, hey, you know, if you ever need anything, I'm also a real estate agent as well. And he called me a couple months later and said, hey, you know, it ends up Cameron, we're gonna have to, you know, sell the house. I remember you saying you're an agent. You know, I really appreciated how thorough your appraisal was. You want to come over and talk about listing my house?
There you go.
And so it's happened a couple times. And
how did you originally get referred to them? Was it through an attorney or?
So I have a couple different ways. A lot of word of mouth. You know, after doing it for so many years.
No, but that specific one, since it was a divorce sale.
That specific one is interesting. It was an online lead generation.
Really?
I'm signed up with a couple lead generation. Okay. You know, the Angie's List.
I'm thinking they Googled
stuff.
Like appraiser, we're getting a divorce, or appraiser.
Yeah, they do.
Local,
yeah.
Right?
So like if you Google that, it could bring you to me that way. A lot of people use, for instance, this was, I believe, through Angie's List, Angie Leads. I'm signed up on there. I have a high rating on there, and so a lot of it gets sent to me.
Nice.
And I actually, hilariously, just 2 days ago, I got a referral for one of my wife's cousins through Angie's List. He wanted an independent appraisal. Of course, didn't want to use me because I, you know.
And you get
and it ended up going to me because because the way he Googled
Did you
it was
call
pretty
him or did
funny.
you refer it out?
I called him and said, hey, just so you know, I got this. You might want to enter it in again. It was pretty funny. But but that's how that one was. And it ended up being, I did the appraisal. Then later on, I was able to list their house and sell it. And
that is great.
so it's kind of cool how it worked out. So,
So I know obviously you had the relationship with Tyler. Okay, so then that's where you jumped onto his team. Was there a moment where you were like, maybe I'm going to go off on my own, or was it always like, hey, if I get in, I'm going in with Tyler?
Yeah, no, I really liked the idea of going in with Tyler. I had, and being in this industry for so long, I know so many agents.
That's true.
I've done a lot of work for agents, some randomly, and some that I've had relationships for many years that I've done a lot of work for them. So I'd thought about, kind of a handful of agents that I wanted to talk to about getting my license, and it was just an easy, natural fit with Tyler. And so I called the 5 or 6 agents that I do a lot of work for and just let them know, hey, just so you know, I'm getting my license. I'm still appraising if you need anything. I still have quite a few agents that still hire me to appraise listings for them. And they know and trust me that, I'll never bring up that I'm an agent. I'll never try and take their business. I'll always talk them up and say they're great. And so it still works well. And then it's kind of fun if we get to work together on a deal or something. And I'm very much a rising tides lift all boats type of guy.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's just a huge up to join a team when you come out of school. Because like you said, I mean, like you probably saw, school is teaching you, the academics of the industry, like us for loan officers, but the street smarts, how to get deals, how to negotiate deals,
and
how
even
to get a client.
I mean, all the...
You don't get that in school.
You don't, yeah. And so it's great being with Tyler. He's been in it for 20 years. I bring my 20-plus years of appraising, and it really meshes really well together.
Now, how is the team set up? So you've got 3 people total?
Yeah, so right now we're a 3-person team. Tyler used to have his own brokerage and a pretty good-sized one with about 20 agents. And, his kids are little, and he's getting on in years and just decided, I don't want to do that anymore. So he sold his brokerage to his old assistant.
Okay.
And she's our broker now. And then we just have a small team of the 3 of us. Mostly Tyler and I here in the Valley. And then we have Mackenzie, who's actually getting married this Saturday. Congratulations, Mackenzie.
Congratulations.
And she splits time between here and Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's originally from Vegas and moved down here to work with Tyler.
And
then she's always done both.
And where's the new husband live?
Vegas.
Okay.
So mostly in Vegas now.
Yeah, I was going to say 90-10.
Yeah, so I actually, I help, but she still has a lot of work down here just from relationships down here. So I help her quite a bit with her stuff as well.
That's cool. So, how is it set up? So I know you said 50-50 buyer listing ratio. What does a typical day look like for you?
It's super interesting being in both businesses because I'm still appraising as well, which is great getting into the business. I know I've seen you talk on podcasts on here about, getting into the business, the time in between commissions. You got to have either some money built up or a significant other with a good job or, because even if you're successful right away, it's still going to be a couple months before you. So it's been great. Yeah, it's been great having, even though appraising isn't as good as it used to be, still kind of having that nice little income underneath from a decent amount of appraising helps between commissions. But anyways, so a typical day work-wise, I might be up early writing an appraisal and then, have to do a couple showings. And then between the showings, it's great. I got an appraisal here, so I'll go appraise the house. Then I'll go to a listing appointment, and then I'll go back and write an appraisal for a couple hours, and then I'll be in the office with Tyler for a couple hours, and then hit an appraisal inspection on the way home. And so it's been kind of an interesting...
Just go.
Yeah, it makes it fun. It's kind of funny. The thing I didn't think about is, I thought, this will be great, because when one's slow, I can do the other, but that's never... going to be,
Yeah, it's the
like
same.
It's still all the same volume.
They'll both get busier at the same time.
They're either both really busy or both slow.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of funny. But yeah, so it's actually worked out really well where I've been able to do both pretty easily.
That does help out a lot. Now, where do you see yourself in like 3 years? Still doing like this kind of same percentage of each business, or is there a phase out of appraisals, or... what do you think?
It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to depend a lot on, I think, where the market goes. I know I'm enjoying this kind of change a lot more. I'm 22 years appraising. As much as I enjoy appraising.
Can you ever see yourself not doing it?
I'll never totally get away from it. but definitely going to phase more into real estate for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely more, like I said, it's definitely more my focus of growing that business right now. Still appraising, but 3 years down the road, I can definitely see where this is definitely my main job, and I do a little bit of appraising on the side, kind of when I want to, type of thing.
Okay.
Which that's kind of the goal, I think.
Yeah.
So
now, where are you primarily finding your business opportunities right now?
it's been a big mix. Of course, it's just the network of people, the sphere type thing. I haven't done a whole lot of advertising, really. I'm going to start doing some of that a little bit.
What will that look like?
Some online, the typical, some mailers in some focused areas.
Okay,
Type
some
of thing.
farming.
Yeah, I'm going to do some farming. But for the most part, it's been just my sphere and social media.
Okay.
For the
And when
most
you
part.
do your sphere, I'm all about playbooks. What are you doing right now for your sphere? Is it calls, text, social, drive-bys? What are we doing?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, mostly socials and lots of tech spheres. I like going to lunch. That works out great. Another great thing about the new transition, I never took people to lunch as an appraiser.
Yeah.
Like, this is great that I have to take people to lunch.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Now you get to get back in a relationship with people.
Yeah, I can hit the Greek place again. This is fantastic. And being an appraiser for 22 years, good luck finding an area of town where I don't know the best taco shop. I mean, you know my history of Big Cameron.
Yeah.
Tell me Big Cameron doesn't know a taco shop anywhere in the valley.
Let's talk, because your fitness journey is pretty cool.
Oh, thanks.
Because it's like it's a 180 from when we very first met.
Yeah.
So what's that transition been like? Where was you weight and health wise when we first met?
Yeah. So when you and I first met, I don't even remember how many years ago it was. It's got to be 05, 06, 07.
5, 6. It would have been 6.
Yeah, right in the heyday of our industry.
Yeah.
So that time, I've always been overweight as a child, as a teenager. And when I came into appraising, it was right after the kind of refi boom after 9/11. So things were, crazy busy, and I would start my day with a big breakfast burrito. It'd kind of go downhill from there. And by the time you and I met, I was about 320 pounds, which is pretty wild.
What are you now?
So I stay around 175-ish now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So part of me wants to, it wouldn't be super healthy, but if I could, just in a month get down to 160 for fun, just so I could say it'd be half my weight.
Wow.
I'm not going to do it, but I'm like, oh man, that'd be cool to do that. Be like, I lost half of my body.
But what was the catalyst to that? Because that had to change everything in your world, right?
Yeah.
Energy
totally.
levels, love life, family,
Right.
energy, and being able to sustain a long journey at work with how busy you were. I mean,
Yeah.
what was that like?
So it was interesting, kind of the catalyst to that. It's interesting, a lot of people don't remember the day, but I actually do. We went to Magic Mountain Six Flags with some friends. And this was back in around that time, 05, 06, 07. And I was too big to strap into the roller coasters. And I remember getting on the Batman ride, my wife and I, our close friends, and getting in, and two little 20-year-old workers trying to slam down the bracket on my big stomach, and I had to end up get off.
You had to get out.
I had to walk off.
Oh,
and
man.
they all rode, and I spent the whole day that way. I couldn't get on hardly any rides. I was too big. And I always carried the weight pretty well. I was in decent health. Just had a really big stomach, real big neck, and so after that, I was like, this isn't going to work. I can't live life,
So on the way back from that was it?
I was like, I got to figure something out.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that was a whole interesting journey, too. I ended up getting a weight loss surgery. Had complications with the weight loss surgery. Didn't lose a whole lot of weight. Had to get the weight loss surgery reversed.
Wow.
Gained most of my weight back. And then I lost about 100 pounds or so with the help of a nutritionist.
Okay.
Over, yeah.
Wow. Was that nutritionist like, hey, all diet, or did they have you start doing some workout stuff?
Definitely exercise and diet, yeah.
Okay.
It was awesome. So, in the beginning, that's the funny thing about it is, again, of course, I'm not a nutritionist, but it was very simple. It wasn't rocket science. Quit eating the crap, It's like...
And don't eat as much of it.
So if I eat wings and, burgers and fries all day, I'm going to get big. Huh? Oh, that makes sense, But, just lots of, the lean protein, veggies, simple carbs, rice, sweet potatoes type stuff. And
But how did you get into the cycling? Because you went all in and started getting like races and stuff.
Right.
So there was a thing from not going on, hey, I'm going to do a couple mile walk, to now I'm going to do, days of biking.
Right. Yeah, this makes sense. So for anybody that sees my Instagram now, it's a mixture of lots of real estate now, but it's also a big mixture of my family and me in spandex.
Yes.
So I apologize, or me in short running shorts, but that's kind of my other life now. Yeah. So I started losing some weight, feeling good. And it's interesting when you start losing the weight and getting healthy. My hips always were sore. I was like, oh man, my hips are starting to get less sore. I can run a little bit now,
wow.
And so I lost most of that weight and started running. And a friend of mine was racing a triathlon in Rocky Point and said, hey, they have this 5K with this triathlon. He's like, I'm doing my first triathlon. Why don't you guys come down and watch, and you can run the 5K since you started running now. And they're like, oh, this will be a lot of fun. And I was like, man, he's going to do a triathlon. Like, that's amazing. Like, he's Superman, And I went, and the community is amazing. You just see old people out there, big, small, short, tall, all shapes, sizes, ages. I was like, this is incredible. And he just had a blast. And so I bought a cheap little like $300 used bike from a college kid and started riding bikes with him and training, and did a couple triathlons and just loved it. And then I still was a little bit bigger at that point. I gained some weight back, and then I just got into it, started losing weight, started getting a little faster, and it just slowly progressed into my thing. So I've been racing competitively now for, I would say 10 or 12, about 10 years probably, competitively. I've raced all over. I've raced in France, I've raced all over the world. Raced in Europe. I've raced up in Canada some, throughout the country, down in Mexico. It's just, and that's actually how Tyler and I met, was through triathlon. Tyler also does Ironman triathlon, and that's how we first met.
So you didn't meet him appraising and doing any of that stuff for him. You met him there.
I met him on a run,
and then started working in the real estate community as his appraising for him and his projects and whatnot. Then joined his team.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So Tyler and I have been good buddies mostly through triathlon for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got into it, and then I just really got addicted to the sport. And it's, when you have the weight issues, you have to look at where it comes from. I had years of issues with anxiety, a little bit of depression, a food addiction, and endurance sports, triathlon, cycling, running has really kind of taken. I like to say it takes up that spot in my brain that I can you can let run into bad places.
Yeah,
and it's really. I knew I would feel better physically losing the weight, but what it's done for me mentally, I've just been shocked by. The way it clears your mind.
What's some of the benefits that you've seen from it?
Yeah, it clears your mind in a way. It's being big, you just have to worry about those things. It's just how do I present myself, and going places, and where am I going to get my next big meal, and then you feel terrible, and you're trying to lose weight, and that's not working. You're
it's
depressed.
Like a feedback
loop.
It's
just a loop, and it clears your mind where it's one less thing to worry about. I'm healthy now, I feel good.
Yeah.
And
what an example though for your daughter. Right?
It's great, man. It's been good. I've helped some people lose some weight. The best example I have from that is my dad was really overweight, and he had the real big chin. And after I lost weight, he was pretty inspired by that, and I helped him lose some weight. And the big chin went down, and they were at breakfast one day with some friends, and a friend was like, hey, what's on your neck? And he's thinking, oh, yeah, feeling pretty, it's slimmer. And she's like, no, there's a bump. And he had stage 3 thyroid cancer.
Wow.
Who knows?
Never would have been caught.
He was having no other symptoms at all.
Wow.
And they caught it early enough where he was able to get his thyroid removed. So that's always a story I tell about, like, if you think it's too late to get in shape, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know, man.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting how that really can benefit your life.
Yeah. Any other health hacks that you do? I mean, obviously the fitness got to be crazy, but are you doing anything like the compression pants and red light and cryo and plunges? And
I leave all that to you. I follow your Instagram, so I love the compression stuff. That's really good. I wish I I do need to. I think it'd be cool to get more into the stuff that you're doing with that type of stuff. But when you're into the triathlon training, it takes up so much time. It's hard to find time to do like other, and that is kind of the downside to triathlon or long distance cycling or running. I try and find some time for a little bit of strength training, but usually it's swim, bike, run.
Yeah,
pretty much all the time.
So I envision this. Are you doing like, hey, I'm doing a lot more swimming now, then I'll start running, or are they're mixed in during your weeks of training?
You know, it's interesting. So in a training block leading up to like a big race, still for instance, a triathlon, the bike is the biggest part of it. You know, so for instance, an Ironman race, you have a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and then a 26 mile run. So percentage wise, the cycling is the biggest part of it. So the bulk of our training hours goes to cycling, which I love. I'm a cyclist. I absolutely love it. But like right now, I don't have a race until next March, and I've been very focused on swimming. So I'm swimming a lot right now, still biking a lot. I do a little bit of bike racing still, and then not running very much. But as I get closer to the race, it'll become more balanced where I'm running more along with the swimming and the cycling. So
why are you focused on swimming more now?
Because I'm not a good swimmer.
Okay.
I got to get to be a better swimmer.
All right. Do you have a coach?
I do. I have a swim coach. I have this really cool old lady. She is old school. She was at like the first World Championships. And she's 70 plus years old, and she's hardcore, and she yells at me.
On like technique.
Mostly for technique. And yeah. She's told me she was going to duct tape my hand together because it's what I need. She's hardcore.
Because you're
awesome.
Like spraying your fingers.
Yeah, because I'm doing this when it needs to be here, and she's like, I will duct tape your hand. Like, this is what I need. This old lady yelling at me to get my hand straight. So that's been a lot of fun.
If you could add the strength training in, do you feel it would help in any of those three areas?
It does. So I still try and strength train a couple times a week.
Okay.
I do some. It's mostly specific to that type of stuff. Lots of core work. For instance, it doesn't help us much to have a big chest.
Right.
So, I do push-ups and stuff, but I don't lift heavy chest.
Yep.
Lots of shoulders, back is good, and of course lots of leg strength and lots of mobility. Core work's very important.
Flexibility.
Yep. So it seems like you've kind of gone that route too, right?
Yeah.
It seems like
more functional.
Yeah.
Flexibility, mobility, balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed that from your workouts that you're doing a lot more of the endurance type stuff, lighter weight, lots of body weight stuff.
Well, I think that your muscles just get used to whatever you're doing. So if you're always lifting heavy, then you should go light and longer for a while just to mix it up and get different muscle fibers going.
Right.
Or rather than just focusing on the concentric motion of like a curl versus the eccentric of like let it down really slow and focus on the negative.
Right.
It just hits a different fiber.
Right.
But if you did that for 8 weeks and then switch it to something else for 8 weeks, it's muscle confusion. You're trying to confuse your muscles.
Yeah.
Right.
As I'm getting older, my muscles are really confused. I'll tell you that much. They're like, what are you doing?
Well, yours are wondering why you're still doing this. Like, hey, you've already proven it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, I do a lot of that too. I do a lot of the pull-ups, the push-ups, the core stuff. A little bit of heavier lifting on the legs, but strength training, it's actually become a big thing in triathlon. 20 years ago, triathletes were not doing any strength training.
Right.
And a lot of runners too.
Well, a lot of golfers.
Yeah.
Never did until Tucker came along, and they're like, how's that guy gained 15 pounds of muscle mass, hits the ball like crazy, and still flexible? It can be done.
Totally. Yeah, you look at all of them now, Rory McIlroy, Justin, all the top golfers, they're all big into strength training.
Yeah, they're fit. You see the broad shoulders, but you see the flexibility, right? You still see the twist. You see they're able to touch their toes. Like they're flexible. Yeah. Right? But they still have that strength.
Sure.
But I'm seeing that movement too in, like the corporate CEO entrepreneur. People are associating the fitness to, like you just said, like, how am I looking when I show up to this appointment?
Right.
Right? How, like, do I look fit? Is my business fit? Also, your productivity level, right? How much more productive am I as a realtor, as a loan officer, as whatever I'm doing as an entrepreneur when I'm more fit? Yeah. When you eat the heavier, fattier foods in the middle of the day, you're just tired the rest of the day. You're not performing at such a high level. So people have brought now the sports mentality into their business and how they operate and become better operators, better athletes of their business.
Yeah. If you think about it, it's true because I've had a lot of my friends that have gotten out of the sport that said, they were taking too much time away from their work or from their family, which is a relevant argument. But, you have to look at it as well. They've gained some weight. They're unhealthy. They're unhappy. How much does that weigh on your mind? Does that affect your productivity?
Right.
Does that affect your sleep?
Goes back to that loop again.
Yeah, it's your loop.
Yeah.
So if I didn't train a couple hours a day, could I use those 2 hours to farm for clients or do social media or contact my sphere or,
But would you be as productive during the hours that you're working
Right.
when you didn't work out before those hours?
Exactly.
Right.
For me personally, I definitely feel I'm far more productive when I put the hours into my training. I feel I'm in my job, I'm a better husband, a better father, and I'm more awake, I'm more mentally sharp, I'm more confident, and I think it shows in my business. So yeah, you're right. It's a big thing now. I mean, all the big corporations, they all have. For instance, I have a good friend who has worked at Amazon for a long time, and he just switched over to another company. But at Amazon, they had he got certain money to help with the fitness stuff, and a lot of these corporations
at Nova, you get a stipend to pay for gym membership, gym equipment, health stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. They had
because it actually keeps the insurance bills down. Because
totally.
you're not using as much of the insurance.
Right. Yeah, so, we're in the old days, they might say, no, we don't want you guys working out 2 hours a day. You guys need to be in the office 2 more hours a day.
Yeah.
Now I think companies are seeing the benefits of, hey, if we have a healthy workforce that works 6 to 8 hours a day, but they're healthy and they're productive, and, that's far more productive than working 12 hours a day eating junk food,
100%.
Die of heart attack type thing.
So my background, is martial arts.
Yes.
And I used to get contracted into different companies to teach Tai Chi in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So do you know on Chandler, getting off by Pecos, there's the microchip plant?
Yeah.
So I would go to microchip in the middle of the day, and it was like 1 or 2 o'clock, and I'd have all these engineers, and they'd all be in like comfy clothes, and I'd get in there, and we'd just do these breathing exercises for like 45 minutes, and then they would leave. I'd teach them Tai Chi, teach them the movements, and then they would leave. Like 6 months down the road, they come back, the head of the department comes back like, hey, we want to renew our contract with you. Our employees are so happy and so much more productive, even though we gave them an additional hour off during their day, right? So they had lunch already. They go back to work a little bit. They come and do training with us, and then they go back to work, and they're more productive at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's where some of this stuff, I think, started coming in later. Like my degree was exercise science back in the day. That was 99. And so that was where we started seeing the ergonomics of a chair, the stand-up desks, the stretching during your work time, the working out in between.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it definitely makes a difference. And we're seeing a lot of companies, big and small. I mean, look how you got into this industry.
Right.
Was personal training. You met, JP got into it, and, I think it's a natural fit for corporations now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. So where do you see, obviously you got your finger on the pulse more than most in regards to values and where it's going. Where do you see values in our greater Phoenix area going over the next couple of years?
It's anybody's guess. It's hard to say.
You just have a better guess than most.
I like to pretend. It's kind of funny because, like, for instance, during COVID, I wouldn't have bet on that happening to our home values.
Right.
So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, something, when you have those type of events that greatly affect home values, it's going to be interesting to see. It's kind of and you might be able to speak to this a little bit more interesting because you see the financial side of it a lot more, but home affordability is something I can't really wrap my head around. You see people's financial statements when you're doing loans more, so you might be able to speak to it more, but gosh, and you just wonder how can we sustain this? It's
a challenge, right? You talk about the stigma of like Los Angeles and California prices, right, where the prices just got so high,
right?
And with rates then get really high. I talked to someone the other day. They said that someone has to be making an annual income of around $200,000 to buy a house in San Diego.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not where it's at, like here, but that's kind of where we're trending.
We're heading that way, yeah. Yeah, so I do kind of wonder if that's going to start to affect it all. But then you look nationally, we're still very affordable. Compared to a lot of big metro areas, we're getting a lot of industry in still.
There's still a high demand.
Out where I am in the Southeast Valley, a lot of my old, speaking of cycling, a lot of the areas we used to ride, we can't ride anymore because there's too much trucks coming through. And
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, it's totally affected our. So it's been good for the economy, great for my job, but it's really affected my cycling, which is a problem.
My training.
My old training routes are covered with Amazon plants and
Wow.
microchips and Microsoft. And so, all along that 202 Southeast corridor there in Mesa, that's our big riding area. It was, but it's just full of, industry now. But that's bringing in a lot of high-paying jobs for people that need a home.
They got to live somewhere.
They got to live home. Got to live somewhere. So it's going to be interesting to see where values go.
I mean, as long as demand stays up, which, like you said, is and nothing market or rate dependent, right? Let's say rates just stay the same or even go up a little bit. We're going to get the demand just because so many people are still coming to town.
Yeah.
All mainly because of these big businesses with billion-dollar business plans over, like there's one plan that was like over a 20-year period. They had 4 phases, and it was a couple $1 billion.
Right.
That's a lot of people that are going to be coming in just for that one spot.
It's still going to be a lot of business coming in. So, I don't know. I think, hopefully it stays strong. I think it will. I think Phoenix area will still do well. I think all of us can agree that the thing that none of us want anymore, these big swings.
Right.
Up and down. It's just, boy, that's tough on the market.
Fast, I feel like it happened so fast, but then it lasted so long. It's been 2 years.
Yeah. And so I think stability would be the key, and I think most people predict that, we're not going to see a big crash or a big run up or, anything like that. I think stability, if we can get back to that, if you look through the, 2010 to 2020, just a nice, steady 2-3%, maybe 5% a year. That's just really good for the economy. That's
sustainable for the economy. Yeah, I agree.
So hopefully we can kind of keep back to that again. But who knows? It's anybody's guess. But I think we are in a good position being here. We have so much land still. We have a lot of industry coming in. It's a popular place. I'm an Arizona native. I love Arizona. I love the Valley.
Would you guys ever go anywhere else?
No, I don't think so.
Daughter goes out of state, goes to college somewhere else, and you guys look at that and say, "Hey, what do you think, hon?"
Yeah.
Would you ever go anywhere else?
I don't see it.
No,
I don't. Both of our families are here, which helps a lot. We have a lot of family. Just we love. I'm in suburbia in Southeast Valley. And even by the way, we're getting old, Greg. How old's your oldest now?
16.
I got a 17-year-old. I'm right there with I'm going to your haircut soon. The comb-over's not fooling anybody. And I've got a 17-year-old daughter, which is just, anyways, that's a whole other story. She's thinking college now. She's a junior in high school, drives a little car around, blows my mind. But anyways, on that note, even after she's out onward, we just love it here. I love the Valley, and I think it is hard to move and reestablish yourself professionally in our line of work. I think that's challenging. I don't know. I just really like it here. I don't see myself moving. Yeah. I love my triathlon community, my cycling community.
You're pretty ingrained.
I'm pretty ingrained here, and I love it here. I really don't. When I look around at other places, I mean, like you, I'd love to have another place. I'm from Show Low originally. Would love to have a little place up there. We could go stay and visit.
Yeah.
But I don't really see us leaving here. I love it here.
Staying put and keep dominating the market.
And hopefully I can, keep the business building up in this line of work and kind of get more ingrained in it. And then I definitely don't see us going anywhere.
I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I love it here.
Well, thanks for coming on, bro.
I appreciate it. This has been so good to see you, man.
Thanks,
Great
man.
to catch up.
Same here. Appreciate it.